This video is brought to you by Skillshare. More about them later in the video. If you're a fan of the CW's take on The Flash, then chances are you've probably noticed how the writers tend to forget certain details about Barry's speed on occasion for the sake of the plot. Seriously, how is this guy able to pull off all of these ridiculous feats and figure out how to do creative speedster stuff in one episode, but then somehow also get tricked, beat up, or just generally inconvenienced by non-speedsters in another one? I mean, it's like Barry just straight up forgets he even has power sometimes. Case in point, Barry's ability to phase through solid objects. Remember how the show made it a big deal that he didn't know how to do it till he was forced to figure it out in the Tricksters episode all the way back in season 1?
Barry, do you see any walls nearby?
Why?
Because I need you to run into one. Or more accurately, through one.
I can't.
Well, if you do, then you might also remember how this wasn't actually the first time we saw Barry busting out this trick. Yeah, it turns out Barry managed to pull off phasing almost 10 episodes earlier that same season during his fight with Oliver Queen in the appropriately named episode Flash vs. Arrow. Just in case you don't remember that episode, let's do a quick recap. Earlier in the episode, Barry had a run-in with a new meta in town named Roy Bigelow, getting his rage and anger dialed to the max. Things eventually come to a boil when Barry tries to kick the shit out of Eddie, forcing Oliver to fight him and keep things under control. At one point in the fight though, Barry gets hit by an arrow full of horse tranquilizer, but instead of just passing out from the big ass dose he just got hit with, he instead somehow manages to phase the tranquilizer out of himself. I mean, this sure looks like the same phasing effect we see later in the show, and I'm pretty sure the same phasing sound effect is being used here too. Plus, it's not like we haven't seen an emotional Barry pulling off feats he wasn't ready for and without proper training, so it's not like randomly phasing early is totally out of the blue either. But even if that was the case though, then how come he doesn't remember it a few episodes later? So what's going on here? Is this just an example of bad writing? A continuity error? Or is it possible that something else is going on here? Well, honestly, after thinking about it for a bit, I'm starting to wonder if what we're seeing here isn't actually phasing at all, but instead is just Barry being smart about using his powers in a fight for once. Before I get into all that though, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare. Look, up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's the Ad Man! That's right, and today I'm here to tell you guys all about the fun and amazing learning you could be doing over on Skillshare right now. With a unique combination of videos and hands-on projects to work on, there's plenty of things to see and learn over on Skillshare in a whole bunch of different categories, like video and music production, creative writing, and more. Best of all, these classes can fit even the busiest of schedules, so whether you're looking to boost your selfie game or learn some new art techniques, then Skillshare is the place for you. I personally am trying to work out a more unique and less infringing superhero logo for my costume, so I'm currently working my way through this really cool logo design course. It's definitely been a ton of fun so far, maybe you want to try it too. And if you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link below, then you can even get started with a free trial of Skillshare's premium membership. So come on, definitely don't wait to see what all the hubbub is. Check out Skillshare in the links below and help unleash your creativity today. Anyways, special thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video, and with that, let's get back into the video. But comics, you might be saying. What about all that stuff you said earlier? This has to be phasing, right? Well, you'd think so, but the fact that Barry has no idea what phasing even is when Wells tries to explain it a few episodes later pokes a giant hole in this theory.
Barry, do you see any walls nearby?
Why? Why? Why?
Why? I mean, if Barry figured out how to phase during his fight with Oliver, then how come he never does it again before he squares off with the Trickster? Come to think of it, why didn't he just do it again earlier in the fight with Oliver? I'm pretty sure there's at least one other time Barry could have used that phasing trick here, don't you think? And I know some of you guys might be like, well, maybe he just forgot about it after everybody brought him back to normal. But that doesn't explain how he figured it out in the first place, and the idea that Barry suddenly lost his memory doesn't even work with what all he actually says in the episode anyway. I mean, he clearly remembers everything that happened while he was being manipulated.
Oliver, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault.
So yeah, Barry doesn't actually know how to phase just yet, which means this can't actually be phasing. So what all's going on here? Well, what if, instead of trying to figure out a power he didn't know he had, we're actually just seeing Barry using one of the offshoots of his powers, that being his hypermetabolism, to burn through the drugs as fast as he could. Remember, Barry at this point in the show was still dealing with the effects of having a hypermetabolism, to the point where it was even confirmed a few episodes before that he can't be affected by things like alcohol unless he takes an extremely concentrated amount of it. Going back to the fight, remember how Oliver shot Barry with a big ass dose of some random horse tranquilizer, whichever one it actually is?
2,000 milligrams of horse tranquilizer. Should be hitting you any time now.
Yeah, that dose may not sound like a lot, but keep in mind, whatever Barry just got shot up with is supposed to be used on an animal that weighs a few 100 pounds at least, and he just got hit with something like 10 times the regular dose for a horse. It was pretty much a guarantee he'd have been hitting full-on sleepy time mode after a little bit.
There is enough cough medicine in there to kill a gorilla.
Now obviously Barry's trying not to pass out, so he's got to work this stuff out of his system fast, especially if he wants to fight off all the other possible side effects any tranquilizer would give you. Things like lethargy, muscle relaxation, drowsiness, things like that. Clearly the amount he's been dosed with managed to be stronger than even his metabolism can process, at first, but there are a couple things going on in the scene that actually help Barry get it going even faster than usual. Generally speaking, your metabolism increases when you exercise because your body's trying to process nutrients and energy to help keep you moving. So doing things like exercise, muscle stimulation, even just generally moving around, all of these things could help fight off all the negative effects Barry would be feeling from the drugs in his system. Given the fact that he's a speedster and can move pretty quickly in a short amount of time, it makes more sense that he'd be doing something he already knows he can do, like vibrating at a certain frequency, to help keep himself stimulated and, more importantly, awake until he gets the drugs out of his body. Plus, you gotta remember he's extremely pissed off here, which means it's more likely that he's already got a bunch of adrenaline pumping through his system too. Not only giving him a quick burst of energy, which is probably why he didn't topple over immediately after getting hit with that arrow, but also helping boost his metabolism even further and burning off the tranquilizer faster. If you don't believe me, check out what happens to the drugs after Barry starts vibrating here. Remember, Barry didn't get shot up with nanites.
Courtesy of Ray Palmer.
He got a straight injection of some pretty strong drugs, which, as we can see here, was originally a liquid when it hit his system. If he was phasing, then why wouldn't the tranquilizer come out of him like a liquid? It's not like Wally's blood turned into steam when he phased some of it into Clive Yorkin back in season 3, right? However, this steam would make more sense if we look at it as Barry increasing his muscle activity and forcing the drugs out all at once through the pores of his skin, rather than gradually like normal. Of course, most of the common tranquilizers used for horses are typically kicked out of the body after a trip through the kidneys, but then again, this is the Flash we're talking about. Wouldn't be the first time the writers got some kind of science thing wrong, am I right?
We need, by my calculations, 3.86 terajoules of energy.
That's more energy than in the sun.
Either way, I don't know about you guys, but I personally am going with the idea that Barry's hypermetabolism was the one making an appearance in this scene. It just generally fits with the timeline better, and it's actually a really interesting and creative use of his powers too. Kinda wish we got some more of that in the later seasons, but what are you gonna do? But anyways guys, that's my take on how Barry was able to phase during his fight with Oliver all the way back in season 1 of The Flash. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.